Hey, welcome back to Grid Gym. It's Tuesday, June 26th. I think it is June 26th. Anyway, today we're going to talk about a little bit about how diversity divides and commonalities sustain. And the point that we're going to try to make clear by the time that we're done is a very clear viewpoint on how our inner commonalities greatly outweigh our external differences. And we're going to go through some different things about that. But you're on the show.
Yeah. And I'm having a little bit of trouble speaking. So
what's the deal with your voice lately? This is like...
I don't know. It just doesn't want to show up.
I gotta... Hey, we're back. I gotta consolidate connections, so see ya. All right, welcome back. I have to close some things down so the connections can be back up. But we're going to go over how diversity divides and how commonalities sustain. And the point of the show is that our inner commonalities are greatly outweigh our external differences. Yeah. And how I think the world is kind of confused on this a little bit. Not in a very key thing to keep in mind here. When I talk about diversity...
You probably want that one.
What if I like his beard?
I don't know.
What if you like her butt?
He accidentally gave me this one, which is, I like her butt. And he had the one that said, I like his beard. So you can have it back.
But I like your butt.
All right, there you go.
All right, good.
All right, but anyway.
All right, so what are we on? Commonalities. Okay, so one of the things that I want to point out throughout this video is that when I say diversity, I'm not, and there's certain times when I'm going to make it sound like, sound like diversity is bad. I don't think diversity is bad. I think that it can be misleading in what we focus on. I think it can mislead the focus of what diversity, with the great parts of diversity. Anyway, what did you have?
Well, you're saying like the diversity is what, like some people focus on diversity bonding us, but you're saying like focus on what we have in common.
Yeah. I'm saying, yeah.
Instead of focusing, because then people like to pick apart the diversity thing and kind of make us...
What do you mean by pick apart? I think I'm picking apart the diversity thing right now. What do you mean by that?
I mean, when they focus on it, then it gives people a reason to hate.
Oh, yeah. Well,
is what I mean.
I think so. I think diversity, like the focus is what everybody messes up on, because if you focus on diversity and you engineer diversity, then you're focusing on the division. You're focusing on the difference. So if you're like black-white, well then you're focusing on there's a difference between the black and the white, where really I think our inner commonalities greatly outweigh. I think that we have basically a universal across every single human. I think other than maybe some like significant outliers, that are extremely rare, but we all want love, we all have fears, we all want companionship, we all want security, we want a home, not necessarily a house, but a home. What?
We are very social beings.
I thought you said sexual interaction, and I was like, oh, really?
No, we're very social beings. We
are.
Like to be understood. We like to have connections and bonds and love, and yeah, it's on a very basic biological level, we're exactly the same, but we tend to focus on what makes us different, and that's what creates hate.
Well, it can.
It can. It's great having differences in a...
Let's explore the hate thing. Okay, so you've got a group of, let's say the female male, because we were talking about this earlier. Let's say you've got a bunch of man haters over here, and you've got a bunch of anti-feminists over here. What do they have in common?
Hate.
Yeah, I think so.
They're focusing on hate.
They're focusing. Yeah, they both have that in common, that they dislike certain things of the other side, which is totally fine to have disagreements. But thanks, man. Disagreements are a great thing, right? Because like when we disagree, it gives me the opportunity to, like, if you disagree with me, it gives me the opportunity to understand a new perspective, and then I grow my intelligence, and vice versa.
And it doesn't mean that you're going to agree with me 100%, but you've kind of formed your own opinion based off of someone, like a broader understanding, not just what you have come to the conclusion of.
I think, and let's explore that understanding thing, because this is a big one for us.
Okay.
Is it like that question of, do you really get to disagree if you don't understand? If you don't understand what the other person is saying, do you really get to even form an opinion?
Probably not, unless you're willing to explore it.
Yeah. I like, if I don't understand what you're saying, either, like, if I lack the education that you have in a certain department or
Topic.
category, topic, yeah, whatever, and I disagree with you on it, and you're like, no, you don't know anything about this. How could you disagree? Like that's one of those really annoying things.
Yeah.
Did you forget to start your timer?
Forgot to start it.
But I think that's a fairly difficult thing for people, though, because it's really easy to just be like, no, I disagree, without having any understanding of what the other person
It's a scary.
is coming
Also,
from.
I think some people that are like not as open-minded, it's kind of scary to hear something that they don't agree with at all and they've never explored.
Like what?
I don't know. If you go for like take politics. If you are hearing a completely opposite view of what you've always believed, and like it's almost like a religion, it's like a spiritual thing for some people.
Yeah.
So to hear the opposite of that and to try to embrace it is pretty hard. It's not an easy thing to do, but you're never going to gain perspective or form your opinion if it stays the same way for the rest of your life. You're not really learning or growing.
You're going to have a hard time growing if you just stick around people that always agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a really tough time learning anything new if you just, if all the people know all the same things that you do.
Yeah, you're standing still.
Yeah.
If you're not interacting with other people's opinions or views or beliefs.
Yeah, my mouth's really dry.
And my throat's really dry.
The political thing is interesting anyway, because it's almost like whose team is winning. It's like, oh my God, like if we're trying to have a discussion.
We have a common, we all have one thing in common. We want the world to be a better place.
Yeah.
We want where we live to be a better place.
Yeah, really easy.
We don't want to. We don't want to interfere with that.
The gun thing is a really easy one. We all want kids to be safe.
But
like, nobody doesn't want that. But the means to get there,
just getting there
seems
is
to be
not
a divide.
It's becoming like there's.
But if you focus on, why would you focus on the commonality in that situation? Like, why would I say, you all want the kids to be safe, don't you?
It brings us to a level where we can have a conversation.
Right.
We can look at each other, and it's like looking in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you can look in the mirror and see, like, I want the exact same thing. I heard someone, like, we all want to be understood. We want, like, our voice to be heard. And whether it's I don't want guns or I want guns, they both want the same reason for that.
Because they want the kids to be safe.
They want the kids to be safe.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really, like, it's easy to point at this stuff and be like, oh, well, yeah, of course. But what about in another country, in another culture, with a different language? I still think that I have more in common with a group of indigenous people that have never seen an industrialized city, that are living in the Amazon right now, than I have in difference with them. I think I have more in common with that group than I do difference with that group. And I think it's because of what we're talking about. Like, your inner commonalities are going to greatly outweigh your external differences. We don't have to have the same language. Like, I was on a bus. I remember, like, one of the first times I ever really thought about this, I was on a bus and there was no English speaking people on the bus with me. And this one girl was going to be late for work. And you could tell that she was just really frantic, and it was just like how I would feel if I was going to be late to work. I'd be like, oh my God, get it, come on, let's go. That's exactly what her body language suggested. That's what everything about her suggested. Come on, let's go. And I was like, we have that in common. I don't speak your language. She was black and I'm white. It is totally different culture, everything. But we had that in common. This is one of the first times it's hit me.
I was listening to a TED Talk, and it was about this guy was trying to make a connection between a kid that was going into ISIS and a kid that was going into Harvard. Like, the kid was going into Harvard to become a doctor. Why was he doing that? He wanted to have an impact in the world.
Mm-hmm.
and help people.
Mm-hmm.
And he also wanted respect from people. So the other kid that was going into ISIS, he wanted the respect from people, and he wanted
to make an impact.
He wanted to make an impact in something that he cared about.
Yeah, and
they want the exact same thing, but one of them's going to be a doctor, one of them's going to be a killer.
Well, maybe.
Well, I mean.
Well,
to
yeah,
him, he's doing the right
one?
thing. He's doing the right thing.
Yeah, both of them were thinking, I'm doing the right thing. Both of them were thinking, I have good intentions behind this thing. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think like you can point at every medical doctor and be like, are they drug dealers or are they trying to help people?
I say help people.
I know, I do too.
Okay.
But at the same time, like there are people out there who are extremely passionate about demonizing medical like prescription drugs. And like to a certain extent they're not wrong, but like it creates all these questions, right? And so I think you have to get back to like what to stay with the topic that we're on. I think you have to get back to the commonality. The commonality between us is the relationship, and then we have to build that relationship. We have to have something in common, right? We have to have something that we both. We have to agree upon certain values. We have to have those in common. We have to have certain desires. We have to have goals. Yeah, we have to have certain things that bring us together. You don't just come together out of by chance. It's not, you know, you have something that binds you, and that thing has to be in common. You know, if you've ever been in a relationship with somebody that is like your complete opposite, you understand what I'm talking about. You roll over and wonder what you're going to talk about next. And that's about it. But.
Well, there's a difference between finding someone and actually connecting with them. Like you can find anybody I'm talking about in a relationship. Yeah. You can find anybody to be in a relationship with.
You want to do that talk?
No.
Let's go there.
So on paper, you might look good together, but if you don't have anything in common, and you don't, it's just, you wouldn't hang out with somebody that you have nothing in common with.
Because the first 5-6 years of us knowing each other,
what?
We weren't romantically involved.
Yeah. No, it was more friendly. I guess if you want to call it that.
But we knew each other, but there was no connection, right? It was like there was something, but we didn't know what it was, but we weren't willing to explore it because we were both scared and blah, blah, blah. Like there had to be something, some inner commonality that kept us talking at least. Mm-hmm. But I think we both had that fear of actually going to the next stage. But anyway, but inner commonalities. What are some things that we all want, that we all desire, or that we all have? Let's start with the ones that we all have, because then we can go with the negatives and the positives. So we all have fears, right? We all have the fear of not being enough.
Yeah.
We all get angry, we all get anxious, we all get nervous, we all get embarrassed, we all get worried.
Yeah, we all do.
So what about the times where, because somebody's going to say this to me at some point when they're going to say, yeah, but what about when I'm freaked out and everybody else seems like they really have their stuff together? Those people aren't scared at all.
But they've been there before. They can relate.
See, I think everybody's scared all the time. And it's just the people who...
Some people are better at managing it.
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
I think if you're practicing courage, then you're managing your fears. And if you're managing your fears, you look like you're fearless, but you're not really you're not fearless. You're managing the fear that you do have. You're practicing courage. Whereas the person that is freaking out and going, no, everybody's got their shit together, they're not scared. There's a misrepresentation there. You're both scared, just one of you is managing it and one of you isn't. One of you is practicing courage and one of you isn't.
Yeah, and it's something that you might have to work at, but some people are just better at managing their fear.
But be careful sounding like you inherited it.
No, I'm not saying that.
It's a learned thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Some people are just to the point where they've learned how to manage it.
They've practiced it.
If someone walking into a brand new situation, like the freshman going into school on the first day is terrified versus the senior. The senior's like, oh yeah, I got this.
but both of them are the same level of scared. Just
Yeah.
one has
They've all been
practiced the courage to do it over and over again. One has gotten more brave, and the other one is just starting on their journey to be more brave.
It's the unknown.
Yeah.
We all have a level of being nervous or afraid.
Like
with the unknown.
This is a perfect example. Like us doing these videos. Go back a bunch of videos. Go back to our first video ever. Go back to my first video ever. You're gonna see. Like I've never not been scared to jump on one of these. At any one moment in this, I've always been a little bit scared.
What about?
But I've gotten better at managing the fear as I go along. I've gotten more and more brave, and so has Rachel by like a long shot. If you go back to her first video, where she's like,
hopefully I didn't do that. What about that lady that we were talking to at the conference? How did she say that? She's like, but how do you, like, my problem would be like just pressing that button and like just doing it. Like, I don't think I'd have the guts to do it. And you said something along the lines like, that's the best time to do it.
that's when you do it.
That's when you do it.
Yeah. Courage, your creativity will follow your commitment to whatever it is. You're not like people are like, I'm not creative enough to come up with something new to say. I don't have the courage, and I don't think that's it. Like, you're not committed. I've pushed this button many times where I didn't know what I was going to talk about. Like, but I was committed to pushing that goddamn button. You have to push the button. A metaphorical button on whatever your thing is. Like going up and talking to the pretty girl. The worst thing that you can do is to not take the chance. The biggest chance that you will ever take is to not take the chance. Because if you don't take the chance, you ensure failure.
Yeah, how many guys are out there that are just like, I wish I would have taken the chance, and how many girls were like, I wish you would have come up to me and said hello.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like, the way that we actually got together was there was she was with a bunch of girls, and I was actually like, I was one of it was basically just a job right after college.
It was like a daycare thing.
When you work at a gym, sometimes you get thrown it up. Anyway, so they were taking a bunch of people to the pool, and they were down a person. They were like, hey, will you come help out? We'll pay you like $10 an hour. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything. So I went anyway. So we're at a pool watching all these kids, and one of the girls playing matchmaker, but none of the guys that I was with, I had no interest in walking across the pool and doing this. But they were all like, should we go talk to him?
One of the little girls.
Yeah. So like, should we go talk to him? Should we go talk to him? Oh my gosh. Like, and I was like, why don't you guys just go say hi? And it's not like I wasn't nervous to go say hi, but finally they wouldn't do it. So finally I was like, watch. And I walked over, and I was scared. I was nervous to go talk to her, to talk to all these girls, but I went. Like, it wasn't that I was not scared. It was that I was practicing courage. But if I hadn't gone up and talked to her that day, there's no way that we'd be here right now.
Probably not.
And if we hadn't taken the next step of courage, and the next step of courage, and the next step of courage, but I think anyway, back on the topic. Commonalities, sustain, diversity divides. The courage to ask questions through all this stuff, like, what does diversity really mean? Is I think what the show is about, like having the courage to ask the questions, the really hard questions.
Yeah, and be willing to hear the answer and not get offended.
Yeah.
Or look into it too far to the point where you get scared or mad or
we
whatever.
could look at this and be like, you're a girl and I'm a guy. We're different. And we are, right? Like, there's a certain amount of diversity. Or we could look at this and we could look at our inner commonalities and we could get to know each other.
Mm-hmm. That sounds a lot easier.
Sounds a lot more fun.
Or more fun.
But like, if you have all this stuff like, we need more diversity, it's like, are you engineering diversity? Are you just focusing on diversity? Are you just thinking that, if we have more diversity, everybody will be great? Well, even if you do have that diversity there, which is probably a really great thing. I grew up with a bunch of first generation United States citizens. All their parents were straight out of Mexico, and those guys were great to grow up with. Like, we didn't notice really a difference between the two. Like, I could have been like, oh, you're a Mexican and I'm a what German, Irish, Welsh, English guy.
Yeah. But you were kids, and you
kids
just
and
knew
you just
that
deal.
you saw another little boy playing, and you wanted to play with him.
Yeah, but if you make diversity as a goal, and you make people be like, no, he's a Mexican, and he's of Mexican descent, and you're of all these other
Just
European,
putting
and
people
you're
into
of European
categories.
descent, and then you focus on those two things, that divides the two. But if you focus on, well, yes, of course he's of Mexican descent and you're of European descent, but what do you guys have in common? Then we have something that makes us come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
To not put people into categories and separate them.
Yeah, but not to not put people into categories too.
But the focus shouldn't be on that, I don't think.
Well, it says the fear makes us. Oh, I could read it. People need to learn to get out of their own heads. The fear makes us overthink. Our own thoughts are the ones holding us back. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like your entire experience is happening within your own mind. Like Rachel's experience of her life is going to happen right up there. My experience of my entire experience, the way that I'm processing everything. So her and I and Bo, you could do this, and everybody else that watches this, we could all read the exact same book, and every single one of us is going to have a completely unique individual experience.
Because we've all had a completely unique individual experience. What you can relate to is what I can relate to and what he can relate to are completely different.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about addiction, the addict stuff?
Sure.
So like one of the things that we were talking about earlier when we were deciding on what to talk about today, we were talking about addicts and how like the research shows that addicts, they think that, or they think, whatever you want to call it, a divide between, they feel alienated from society, they feel alienated from their friends and their family, and then the way that we treat addiction is that we further divide them from their friends, from their family, from society, and we shove them away, and we tell them that something's wrong with them. But really, I think all of us have way more in common with that addict than we have differences with that addict.
So you're saying?
So I'm saying that research also shows that when we push them further towards people who care for them, people that like their friends and their family, and in more of a positive atmosphere, then they tend to improve more. They tend to deal with their addiction better. They tend to manage their own fears better.
So like kicking him to the streets, and that's not a very good way to...
Well, it further puts more focus on that alienation, on that divide. No, you're different from everybody else. You need to be over there doing your thing. Mm-hmm. Well, no, they're not. They have so much in common with all of us that it's insane. They're not different. They have the same fears, the same desires, the same wants, the same inner commonalities as all the rest of us. And if you focus on that, then all of a sudden, then maybe we can form that shared commonality, and then maybe they can feel a connection with their family. Maybe they can feel a connection with their the ones that they care about, their family, their friends, the people around them.
Yeah. So you're not saying like just kick them to the side. You're saying like they don't want to feel like nobody wants them anymore.
Right.
They want to be able to interact and be with their families and have people understand them. It's kind of hard to understand someone who is addicted to drugs.
And if you never felt understood, you would feel alienated.
That's probably why like the group sessions probably work well together, because they can share stories of being able to relate.
From the standpoint of anthropology, the reason that mammals exist is because they were better able to survive the more social they were. So the lesser social of the group got picked off by predators. The more social you were, the more you survived, and that's why there's more Homo sapiens, the current day Homo sapiens, and not there. Like 200,000 years ago, there were 7 different species of Homo sapien, and now there's only one. And the one group that is now primarily was the most social, that lived in the biggest groups, and because of that, and then they built religion that further grew out that ability to survive. So the desire to belong is in your DNA. We all have this great desire to belong. And if you don't have that and you think no one understands me, no one's going to love me, I'm different, then you don't belong to any group. You are going to naturally push yourself out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which becomes problematic. It divides you.
Do you think that kind of has something to do with, I don't know, people that have trauma in their past and they don't really like express it or talk about it because they think that they're the only one?
I think that's a lot of it.
So they kind of alienate themselves from their family in a not so healthy way, and in turn they think they're the only one.
Yeah, right now you're hearing a lot about like the Harvey Weinsteins of the world and that kind of stuff, and some of it's getting a little silly, like the one with Morgan Freeman that we saw that was just like, oh my God, girl, shut up. That was just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But like sexual abuse is being completely like the idea that little boys don't experience sexual abuse and little girls experience on a high level. I almost guarantee you there are just as many little boys that have experienced are victims of sexual abuse as there are little girls that are victims of sexual abuse. I almost guarantee you that the numbers are almost identical. But I almost guarantee you that no boys, hardly any boys, will tell anybody.
It's a lot less likely.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that makes sense.
And like I know, like I'm not just making this up. Like I know because of the people that I've had really difficult conversations with, other males.
Like you wouldn't expect
yes
such a thing to.
How often it really happens.
But I mean, in that way, that goes back to the topic. They are looking at themselves as being completely different. Yep. They have nobody in common to relate to or to put that into perspective. So they don't really express it.
Yeah.
And they further separate themselves from the people around them.
Yeah, and it's really sad because there's a lot of other implications of that I don't need to get into here.
No.
But that fear becomes very unreasonable, and then you start thinking like, oh, nobody else is afraid like I'm afraid, but everybody else is afraid like you're afraid. I guarantee it. Everybody is approximately the same level of afraid. It's whether you have the courage to manage it or not. And courage is not something that you get up front. It's something that you get as a product of doing the scary thing.
Yeah.
You get it on the back end, not on the front. It's not like, oh, I'm going to practice courage, I'm going to go in there. No, you're going to be scared. And then afterwards, you get a good heavy dose of courage. And then you go practice that again, you get more courage. And you go practice that again, you get more courage. I don't think there's zero psychological proof that you can become less scared. There is tons of scientific, psychological proof that you can become more courageous.
Well, if you think of it as practicing, as you practice those activities of being courageous, you're getting better at managing it on like
100%.
On like a subconscious level too.
Yeah.
Because you've done it before.
Right.
You've learned, oh, well, this part that I was always scared of isn't a big deal. It's actually the easy part. It's actually the fun part.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily scary anymore.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think of one. Let's say you're scared of riding in elevators. You're scared to death of riding in an elevator.
For no reason at all.
You don't know why.
Have heard they are unsafe.
Yeah. So let's say that you're so scared of riding in elevators that you can't even come close to one. You just automatically go to the stairs. So one day we don't go on the elevator, but you and I, we go and we stand in front of the elevator and we just watch people get on and off. We watch people go up and down and come back off. And we do that a couple of times. And then, so now we were scared to look at the elevator, but we did it anyway. And then the next day, maybe we come up and we walk inside the elevator, but we don't let the door shut, and then we walk back out. And it's like, holy shit, that was terrifying. I don't ever want to do that again.
Nothing happened.
But nothing happened. They walked in and they walked back out. Okay, and let's say we do that for a couple weeks. We just walk into the elevator and we walk back out. Maybe we do it 2 or 3 times. We don't let the door shut. And maybe then for 2 weeks we walk into the elevator, we let the door shut, and then we open the doors back up. We don't go up and down. We just let the door shut, open it back up, and walk back out. And it was terrifying. Holy shit, I can't believe I just did that. Oh, man. But now let's look at how far we've come. Before, you couldn't even look at an elevator. Now we're actually getting to the point where you can walk into an elevator and you can let the door shut and walk back out. Now maybe we get to the point where we do that for a couple weeks, and then you walk into the elevator, you let the door shut, and you go up one floor and you let the doors open. You get off as fast as possible. Oh my God, that was terrifying. But you just went through a huge transformation. And eventually you do that for 2 more weeks. You go up 1 floor, and then you go up to 2 floors, and you go all the way up to the 3rd floor, and you come back down to the 1st floor, and then you get off. And eventually you keep doing that, and you keep on practicing courage and practicing courage and practicing courage. And eventually this unreasonable fear of going up in an elevator and coming down an elevator doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It's
easy.
What you do. But you're not less scared of jumping into that elevator. You happen to be able to manage your fear better than you could before.
Yeah. I mean, for that person that was terrified of an elevator, that, like, to us, it seems like nothing. But we've ridden in elevators and we've never gotten hurt. And we have no reason to be scared of that. But who knows why they were afraid of it in the first place. They were creating the fear in their own mind. So once they're able to accomplish that, they get to the point where they can do the exact same thing. And we can all ride elevators without being scared. Yeah,
I don't think you have to have a reason for being afraid. Fear is not reasonable in the first place. So thinking that you have to have a reason to be afraid is kind of silly. Fear is unreasonable. It is not reasonable. Like, for instance, bonding with somebody else. Like, bonding is something that really terrifies people. Attaching, very easy. Separating is a little painful, but way easier than bonding. Bonding takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of courage to go ahead and bond with somebody else. But to most people, they're like, bonding is easy. That's so easy. Then show me someone that's done it. Hardly anybody does it. Like, it's very difficult. It's very hard. You got to break down a lot of walls. You got to open up a lot of vulnerability. You've got to really show who you are inside. And she's not just going to see all my good stuff anymore. She's not going to see my highlight reel. She's going to see all the deep, dark, nasty shit that's inside of me. And that's scary to show somebody else. And I'm going to see hers. And we're going to be like, oh, well, that's not so bad.
But that's what bonding is.
But to me, it's like, you can't see that. Like, that's like the worst parts about me. But I guarantee you, she shows me the worst parts about her. And I'm like, I can deal with that. You're so hot.
Okay, we're almost done.
Yeah, I know. All right, so diversity, commonalities. Is one bad and one good?
No.
Are they both kind of indifferent to good or bad?
Are they both what?
Kind of indifferent to good or bad? I think they are.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah. I don't think that diversity is bad. Diversity is very good. To have to meet somebody who is a different skin tone than you, to meet someone from a different culture with a different language, all those things. It's very, very good. But when you do get in that scenario, I think it's very important to look for the commonalities that you do have between the two of you, not the differences that you have between the two of you.
Because that's how you start bonding. You begin to understand the other person.
Yeah.
Like for him to divulge all of his nasty, dark, whatever, means that I can also divulge my nasty, dark, whatever.
Good word.
So
divulge.
That's how a bond forms, whether it's a romantic one or a friendship or a family member.
Yeah. If you do ever have the courage to get completely, to be like, here's everything. I'm not saying, like, you gotta be a little careful, because like in certain relationships you wouldn't want to do that. That's an upfront thing. But if you get to a point where you just like, this is what I'm terrified of. I'm terrified of you leaving. I'm terrified of us not getting along anymore. I'm terrified of us getting this huge fight. I'm terrified of not being enough for you. I'm terrified of, and most of the time, I think that what you're going to find is the other person goes, oh my God, same. And then you open up a commonality, and then you open up a discussion, and then you take your relationship to a depth that you didn't know before. But it takes a lot of courage to do that. Yeah. And it takes a lot of commitment to the relationship to be able to do that. If you don't have that commitment, you're never going to get there.
Good one.
Was it?
All in?
Yeah. Just closing thoughts. Diversity as a goal divides. Commonalities sustain. Diversity by design, I think, is definitely a problem. Whereas diversity by chance or encouragement, Because all you do is put your focus on the difference, but diversity by a chance or encouragement to explore, it sounds like a very positive thing. Like I said, I grew up with a bunch of first-generation United States citizens, and all their parents were from Mexico. So we could have just sat there and been like, no, you're from Mexico and we're from here. But that would have been really silly, right? Whereas if we would have explored what we had in common, which was a ton, we like sports, or we like running around, all this stuff, then it was really
Little
fun.
boys. Who doesn't love sports?
And we did explore our differences, but in the way of what we had in common with each other. Like you played soccer, I played football, stuff like that.
Sorry.
Anyway, diversity divides, commonalities sustain. Our inner commonalities will always greatly outweigh our external differences. All right, you ready to shut it down?
My voice is just bad.
Your voice is so gone. Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Please like, comment, share down below. We do these each Tuesday. I come on every day. Maybe one day you'll do one all by yourself.
Maybe.
That'd take some courage.
We'll see.
Yeah. But we do these each Tuesday. I come on every day at 12:30. Rich comes on with me on Tuesdays. Always really fun. Please like, comment, share. Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow.